So let's think about this. You remember at times I've said to you, leaders must be readers. But reading without reflection becomes rote learning and produces no long-term significance. So that's the reason that we build in these times. What have I learned? What was I reminded of? And how is it going to change what I do? Leaders must be readers, but you must take time to reflect on what it is that you read in order for you to learn how you might apply it. You see, there are levels of learning as we equip people. There is a rote level of learning, which is the ability to repeat without thought of meaning. We just repeat it. We've just memorized it. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, we just memorize it. We memorize the multiplication tables. Okay, but if we do not do anything with what we have learned, we only have learned at a level of rote learning. We have to move from a rote learning level to a recognition level, which is the ability to recognize concepts, or in our case, the biblical concepts of the equipping pastor and the equipping church. Then we move to the third level, which is restatement of those biblical concepts. The ability to express or relate the concepts to a biblical system of thought. Then we move to the fourth level, which is relation. The ability to relate Bible truths, watch this, to life and see the appropriate response. So we move from rote to recognition to restatement to relation. And then finally, the fifth level is realization, which would be actualizing response to apply biblical truths to daily life. So as we are equipping people, we don't want just to give them the ability to repeat what we've said or to parrot it. We want them to have the ability to recognize the biblical concepts that we've shared. We want them to be able to express and relate those biblical concepts to a system of thought. Then we want them to have the ability to relate those Bible truths and see how that they would impact life in moving Florida forward. And then we actually want to take the step and actualize moving Florida forward, a response in applying biblical truths into our daily church life. Those are the levels of learning, not just that I'm taking and sharing from my mind and it's being seated in your mind. I want it to go beyond, just as I stated in one of the other sessions, a data dump or information just for the sake of information. We want every pastor to be transformed into an equipping pastor and lead an equipping church. Because Paul said about the church in Ephesians, He, Christ, gave apostle, prophet, evangelist, pastor, teacher, watch, for the equipping of the saints so that the saints can do the work of ministry, so that the body of Christ is edified as well as increased. So I want you to take some time and reflect on how you ask yourself this question: how can I pass what I have learned to my team? Again, what have I learned? What have I been reminded of? And what will I do now? Well, we're giving you some suggestions about what you might do now. We've actually given you on pages 11 and 12 of your learning module some directives that would guide a discussion with your team. Take some time, review on pages 11 and 12, and bring your team together and discuss these concepts, these principles, this biblical reboot where that the laity in the church have been called to serve, and you in that time of discussion find about how you might apply it to your context of ministry. In addition, you're going to find questions here. Say question number 1, in addition to Ephesians 4, identify other Bible passages and church documents that address the purpose of church leadership. See, these are things that you can lead your group through, your team through. There are 8 different discussions. You might take 1 or 2 of them in a session so as to do a comprehensive study on all 8 of those directives you'll find in pages 11 and 12. Then on page 16, you'll also find 5 directives. Use the following as a discussion guide with your leadership team regarding an equipping culture. And this one on page 16 is about your leadership team meeting, vision of your church for equipping ministry. This will help you and your team begin to formulate the directive of you becoming a equipping pastor and you leading an equipping church. Blessing.